Hello friends, my name is RagePanda1, you can see it right down here at the bottom. And today I want to tell you, explain to you maybe, why your male water and sun is not performing as well as the ones that you see around you. I know a lot of people are using very specific champions to try to help out. I see female Lume all the time. Look, I don't hate her with the male water and sun because he's completely overpowered, but I don't think she's the best champion to have on the team. I just don't. But if you are going to use her, male water and sun is the person to use her with, and make sure that he's the highest strength on your team, otherwise you're wasting your time and don't do that. Now this video is not particularly meant to be a build guide, it's more meant to be an optimization guide because I want you to know the people that go on his team that are going to help him to do the best that he can do, particularly when it comes to maximizing his passive. A lot of people don't understand how that works, but first we'll talk about traits because I know you love that too. This is my trait build for the male water and sun. I'm using aggressive, fierce, brutal, and honorable. You will always use honorable on the male water and sun. I never use energetic on him because he's such a good healer on his own. This isn't the only build that will work, but the reason that we have brutal and aggressive is to also increase our healing, which scales off of our strength. And I have fierce in there because I didn't have anything else I really cared about. I know a lot of people are talking about using pure heart, especially when you're fighting against Bulko. I don't ever need that. I do fight against Bulko. A lot of people maybe think that my account is too new, I don't have to worry about it. I do fight against Bulko all the time, and I can survive through it. If you cannot survive through it, if you can't survive that, you might consider using a male Lume. Number one, you're going to have a chance to revive people when the ult phase does eventually come to bear, but also his active skill will cleanse Bulko for you, and it's going to do it way faster for your team than putting pure heart on everybody. I would much rather just have that character on my team than to actually go through and put pure heart on everybody, especially since the goal of this character is to make him never basic attack ever. That's what you want. So you don't want to waste a trait slot on that. If you had to, you would put it where fierce is, but that's up to you. Otherwise, I would go with a male Lume for the cleanse effect. He's a pretty good character anyway, and it's a free sanguine on your team. Before we need to bother talking about the passive, we need to understand how our ultimate actually functions. It's very important. Most ultimates, not all, most ultimates in this game are one and done. You do the ultimate, your energy starts over, and that's the way it is. This is a channeled ability. Instead of consuming all of your energy at once, this one consumes 125 energy per second to summon a roaring wave that ripples through the battlefield. And it does all the cool stuff that it does, and you want to keep it running for as long as possible, because you're going to get a free stunned effect for keeping it active for long enough. And when you get a free stunned effect, that's going to affect your passive, which is going to give you more energy back to keep ulting yet again. Are you starting to see why things like Agile and Pure Heart are not that effective on this character? He's not going to be basic attacking. If he's basic attacking a lot of the time, either your enemy team is doing a really great job of shutting him down, or you are playing him wrong. There's one of the two solutions. That's the only thing they could be. So, the wording here is so important. When an enemy is inflicted with a control effect, it has to be a control effect. Attack speed reduction does not count as a control effect. I know, I tested it myself. Energy reduction does not count as a control effect. This also specifically negates you from getting it from silenced or knockbacks. However, there is a little bit of a problem with the wording of the knockback. Number one, I have to assume that pulls are counted as a displacement effect, which knockbacks also would be, and therefore I'm assuming that pulls don't work. If pulls do work, then male Askavarg is even better than I'm about to tell you that he is, but he's already pretty good for a very specific reason. The other issue with the knockback is that it's not super clear if knock-ups work or not, and I don't have a great way to test that right now. So, I'm giving that job to the community. I would like you to test pulls. I do not expect them to work. And I'm expecting you to test knockups. I am expecting those to work. Unfortunately, neither of those things really change the results of what I'm about to tell you, because there are very specific dudes that are very good at being a battery for this character, and I think that you should use maybe at least one of them on your team, but certainly if you're only going with what I'm calling the 1-stars, then I would use at least 2 of them on your team. Male Water and Sun is the most overpowered guy in the game. You may as well be making the best of him, and a lot of the options that we have are good to have on the team anyway, so it doesn't hurt. That's the whole interaction that we're working towards here. We need control effects other than silenced and knockback, so that doesn't include burning or anything like that. Only control effects. We're talking maybe sleep, paralyze, stun, immobilize, stuff like that. Now I am going to put this list in the description because I think for viewing purposes, I'm just going to do a little bit of rapid fire here and just talk a little bit about what makes each person kind of good for this. One of our 1-star energy batteries is going to actually be the female Estorir, which you may not have expected, but with the way that her ultimate works, you're going to get multiple versions of this 2-second stun if you're playing the game well. Now, this character is a little bit of an honorable mention, but it allows me to talk about something early that I want to talk about, and that is staggering of the stunned effects. If you're getting a lump sum of everybody being stunned or taunted, taunt also works, that's important to know, and they're all happening at the same time, the odds that you're going to overcap your energy are actually pretty high. Because if you're doing this right, your male Water and Sun is going to be max energy the entire battle, and he will never stop ulting unless the enemy stops him. You do have the potential here to get some staggered increase in your energy gain, and this character in general is extremely good to have on your team anyway. So she's getting an honorable mention, even though she's not providing as much energy as the other ones that we're going to talk about. But it did allow me to bring up the staggered energy gain, which I consider to be very important when we're maximizing this character. Now, just to drive that home a little bit better, I'm going to talk about the male Dravapala. Somebody people don't really talk about all that much anymore, but his pulls are very efficient. We like that a lot. Taunts are extremely strong, and he's also got even more action going on after that. Now, I'm assuming that pulls are not going to work, as I said before, but his active skill will also be taunting all of those enemies, and it does work when you taunt all of those enemies, which means for this character, likely, if he's the only person acting as an energy battery for you into the active skill phase, he's basically going to guarantee that you're going to start doing your ultimate, which is pretty strong. If for some reason pulls actually do work, then this could be crazy. He could just completely fill your energy bar from 0, which I don't think is going to happen, but it would be pretty cool. After that, he's going to go into his ultimate, at which point he's going to do a sweeping attack, which does a stun to the enemies. So that's going to be another big chunk, a big lump sum of energy all at once. The danger here is that we are possibly going to overcap on both of these moves, and it's great that he has 2 moves that are going to be doing an area of effect, control effect. That's really what we're looking for here. The problem is that they are all stacked up, and it makes it not quite as good. He's fantastic for this job. He's part of the 1-star crew. That means they're pretty good. But once you see the 2-star crew, you're gonna be having some second thoughts about the 1-stars. So female Estorir was on the bottom level of the 1-stars for his usefulness as an energy battery. Male Dravapala sits probably in the middle somewhere. The male Thunderlord, however, is probably on the top end of being a 1-star. He's very good for what we're getting. One of the reasons for that is that his normal attacks have a chance to inflict this stunned effect, which is going to happen very often. So it's going to be trickling in pretty often. Then, when you're hitting somebody more than one time with your cluster shocks, you will also be inflicting a stunned effect. So you're going to be doing persistent stunning effects, not quite once per second. If it was once per second, it would be almost too good. But you're going to be getting close to those numbers, and that's going to be extremely strong to keep this ultimate running over time, especially when this is paired with other people. And of course, male Thunderlord is really strong anyway, so you're not losing anything by putting this guy on your team, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. And in fact, there are some people who were kind of okay, and I just left them off the list because if you're useless to me otherwise, and then I don't want to put you on the list, and that's just the way it is. The rest of these 1-stars are in no particular order, so don't take it to mean anything. I'm not a tier list guy. For one thing, he's got an AoE taunt on his passive, and importantly, this is happening after you're already in a little bit of trouble and you've taken a casualty. So that big bulk lump sum of energy could come in very handy. And of course, we have another area of effect stun here with the active skill. It's always great when those are on the active skill because it's going to hit early and often, and we like that. Bonus effect here on the ultimate, we have a random chance to potentially recover 100 extra energy. We're not going to need it because we're going to be using people that are going to make sure that we get what we want, but it's a nice extra bonus just in case. Now, this character being a 1-star is entirely dependent on whether or not knockups actually work, but I expect knockups to work. If they don't, that's unfortunate. She's still really good anyway, so you wouldn't have lost anything by using her. She does have a pull on this. I don't expect that to work, but when the wave is going out, it launches people airborne, which is a knockup, and I'm assuming that that's going to work. Even if it doesn't, on her ultimate, she has a nice AoE stun. With both of these things combined, you're going to be having a pretty decent time, but what I really love about her is that these effects don't happen instantly. Like I said, if it all happens instantly, your tendency to overcap is going to be much too high, but when it takes a couple of seconds for the wave to travel across the field, then you're giving yourself a chance to get extra ticks off of the ultimate of the male water and sun and more energy to come in. So I do really like that, and if knockups do work, she might even be like 1.5 stars. Here's a fun one, a guy that everybody loves, a big old fire puppy. Nothing wrong with that. Male Askavarg. A lot of people have been using him, and you might be saying, but he does knockbacks, and he does pulls, and you would be correct, and those things are not useful to us whatsoever. But what he does that is useful is that he's going to do a taunt. He's going to taunt all of these enemies. And more importantly than that, he's going to do it as soon as the battle starts. And if you're in arena, that means your male water and sun is going to put that stick in the ground and go. But even if you're in Valley of Conquerors or Guild Conquest and you haven't had a chance to build up your energy from before, he's going to be giving you a huge chunk before you even get started, and you will absolutely be the first person ulting in most scenarios. If you were considering using this, there's actually nothing wrong with going with Ambitious in the Fierce slot that I showed you on Male Water and Sun, because I think that the effects combined together could be pretty crazy in those other PvP modes. It's overkill in Arena. If your main focus is Arena, then that is probably just overkill. You would literally be maximum energy as soon as the thing started anyway. It's nothing to worry about. But in those other game modes where you might need to consider it, then I think that it's worth thinking about anyway. Now I can kind of cover these Silken Crowns together because both of them are 1-stars. They're both pretty decent and they both work sort of the same way. It's a little bit of a gamble. They've got really good effects that could trigger really often. They could trigger in a staggered way and they could provide a ton of energy. They could also do basically none of that and be not that helpful at all. It all depends on how it goes. I think it's going to average out to them being about a 1-star. You could see some matches where they just absolutely go off and go crazy and his energy is through the roof. I think it's more going to be a middle of the road sort of situation, but I think that they're very good to use in combination with him anyway, especially the male when you're adding in your extra healing and having a great time. Everybody loves male Silken. I bet you're glad to hear that a lot of these characters are characters you liked anyway, and so am I. Usually it's because of the power creep, and in this case it is definitely because of the power creep. Everybody's got so many extra effects and tiny little stuns, it's really nutty. So, again, that is true for male and female Silken Crown, both 1-stars in my opinion, in terms of being an energy battery for ya boy. Male Acuna is also going to fall into that camp, and some of you might be surprised by that, because it's not necessarily guaranteed that his stuns, his freeze effects that are going to be happening from his active skill are going to happen at the same time, so you get a little bonus from it being staggered, but that's not guaranteed either. But also we have the Arctic Domain, which has everybody using their active skills, and then they will be frozen. I do think that the male Acuna is the second strongest character in the game. I think if you're going to be using male Water and Sun, you may as well be using a male Acuna if you have access to him. In fact, if you wanted to call him 1.5 stars for the energy generation, I think that's fine, and I could maybe get behind it. But this guy is absolutely fantastic in all regards, and if you can possibly use him on any of your teams, you really should be doing it. I'm not a tier list guy, but if I was, I know two people that would be sitting at the top, and one of them is the whole purpose of this video, the other one is the male Acuna. But we're not making a tier list, so you can forget about it. But use both of those characters if you can. Male Bjornekriger. Now, he is a very strong boy. He is incredible. He's probably the third strongest character in the game, considering what the meta is like right now. His Shiver stacks don't do anything to give us energy as far as I can tell. However, when you actually freeze people, it does give us energy, which is great. And all of his other abilities help him to get those freezes more often, which is also great. Another one, you might edge up into the 1.5 star area. But also, if this line attack, the knockup actually counts for energy. I haven't been able to actually check that out or discern it for myself. There's a lot going on in these matches. A lot of energy numbers flying around when combat is amuck. But if it does work out that way, then he is even better than I'm considering. I'm kind of just basing it on the freezing alone right now. He is definitely in the 1.5 star range, and I think male Acuna falls into there as well. And another person with that potential is the female Seun. It depends on how your decoys are actually going to do their job, and if you get all of them out that you need to get out. But if you are doing that, you could find yourself in a situation where she is repeatedly, over and over, just giving an absolute ton of energy, and then she too would be 1.5 stars. So I'm going to put her up there just because I see 4 clones out on my games very often, or 3 clones and my lady. And I think that's enough to put her in that category. Because they're going to be staggered and it's not all applying at once, that makes it way better. I can't explain to you how much better that makes the energy batteries when you're not just getting a lump of energy all at once. But that's not what you're here for. You're here for the 2 stars. Who are the big daddies that are really going to bring it home for your male water and sun? Now these ones I am going to put in order of my favorites because I think it's moderately important. So I've got 4 people I have listed as 2 stars, meaning they are the best at giving the male water and sun his energy gain. The first one is actually female Orost. I know she's a little bit old. I know not everybody loves her, but she has an AoE stun on her passive. An AoE stun on her passive. She has an AoE stun on her active. And you may have guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, she has an AoE stun on her ultimate. All of them are AoE stuns. That means that all of them are giving you the energy at essentially the same time, which I have said before is not the best. But when you have 3 versions of AoE control effects, you're not just dropping bombs of huge energy once or twice a match. You're doing it over and over and over again, and it's really going to add up to being a lot. And if you ever got in a situation where you were stunned out and you weren't able to get your consistent energy from other people, she's going to cover that, and she's going to do a great job of doing it with huge lumps of energy. And that is the same reason why the next person is on the list. And he's a little bit same but different. He's got the same sort of stun effects on every single thing that he does. Same broken shield that leads to a stun. For our active skill, we've got a taunt rather than a stun, which is fine. And additionally, on our ultimate, we've got a big old stun as well. Now, I have a feeling that Xyston, or Asterion, whichever one you want to call him, wish the game would make up their mind on that one. I have a feeling it's going to be easier to hit more people in his abilities, but more research is needed on that because I don't have a ton of experience with this character. So they're roughly tied, but I'm putting him in 3rd place for that reason. But these last 2, they go hard. They go real hard. And if you put them on a team together, you literally will just never see your male water and sun do anything but ult. It's crazy. Number 2 for the best energy battery that we've got is going to be the female Bjornekriger. That's right, it's female Bjornekriger for exactly one reason. Her ultimate spins and spins and spins, and her micro stuns do count for giving energy. They just call them interrupts in the description of it, but they do count for giving energy. It's an AoE, so you're hitting as many people as are standing there, and it's going to hit those people up to 6 times. And that's each. So if you happen to get the entire enemy team in there, that would be 30 hits, 30 control effects that you're getting, and that would be more than 3 full ultimate bars. You will not stop ulting while that is going on, and that's going to be absolutely huge. She does a great job at keeping that going, and she's one of the better characters in the game that everybody just doesn't use for some reason. People, stuns and anti-heal are how you win the game right now. That is how you win. You also have to have heals on your team. If you don't have heals on your team, you're at a severe disadvantage. But stuns and anti-heal are what wins the game. When you're fighting a Bulko and you need to survive for 10 seconds, Don't you think it would be moderately helpful to have a bunch of stuns on your team? They're gonna have to be on active skills, but it's gonna help you a lot, and you need to be using them. And having these huge ones on ultimate skills, once you get to start using your ultimates, you're gonna completely shut down enemy teams. And that's why she's so good. Don't get me wrong, her passive is really strong, and you all underrate it way too much. She's essentially immune to normal attacks, and she makes your team take a bunch less damage with her active skill, but this video isn't about her. Don't make me get ranting again, alright? Get it together and start using her. Alright, now, we've got the absolute, undisputed, #1 best energy battery that exists in the game for the male Water and Sun. The best that exists in the game for the male Water and Sun. That's right, that's what I said. I know that you love your F Lume. I know you've been using her forever. I don't care. I don't think she's better than this. I really don't. For one thing, we've got a couple of stuns that are going to happen on our active skill. That's already huge. The thing about this happening on the active skill, some people might say, well, what about the AoE stuns that are going to give me even more energy than having 2 procs of this happen for these stuns? #1, these stuns are for 2.5 seconds, which is pretty long for an active skill, pretty decent. And there are 2 of them. 2 of them is all you need at this point in the game. If you get 2 stuns at this point in the game with the time that you've walked up, done your couple of basic attacks, you did your active skill, your boy is ulting at this point. You've already done your job and you've got him juiced up. That's what we really want from this active skill, and she does a great job of it. And of course, when it comes later and he's already ulting, it does a great thing to keep it going. But the thing that makes her so over the top good is her ultimate. For 6 seconds, you put a lightning pool over the head of one of your enemies, and once every 0.5 seconds, it's going to summon lightning on a random enemy target, deal some damage, and inflict a 0.5 second stun, which means that's going to hit 12 times. It's going to hit 12 times, lasting over 6 seconds. It's not only going to maintain his energy for 6 seconds, you are going to be gaining energy back for that entire 6 seconds. By the time that is done, you are likely to have gotten an active skill again. That's more consistent energy. That's going to keep going. And the great thing about this is, with both of these things, if you get stunned out and you end up missing a little bit of your attacks, like if the male Thunderlord misses some of his attacks, he's just not doing anything, her skills are just recharging. They're just coming back. You're not missing that much. So the consistency of this character is what makes her stronger, even though somebody like the female Orost or Asterion, Xyston, whatever, even though they're going to provide a bigger bulk of energy over the course of that time, more than likely, they're going to be wasting a lot of the energy that they're producing, and that's what makes the female Thunderlord so much stronger. It's the pacing of what is happening, and that's why I couldn't recommend it enough for you to go ahead and actually use this character to make your male Water and Sun the best you can make it. Now, for the 2 characters that everybody loves to use with her that are not good at all, in my opinion, I'm going to tell you why I don't think they're good. Of course, #1 here is going to be female Lionstone. You might be thinking that getting all of the extra damage and healing is going to be fantastic when she does her ultimate. Other than that ultimate, she's a completely wasted character slot. So that's a problem. Just starting off, that's a problem. You're getting rid of a slot that could be female Bjornekriger or male Bjornekriger, which could be getting you a ton of extra energy, a bunch of anti-heal to actually counter and beat the enemy team, and male Water and Sun does not need this buff. If you look at his healing, when his healing is pulsing, if you have him built properly, you're pretty much full healing everybody the entire time with just about every pulse. It's crazy. So she's not helping him heal at all. She is going to help him do a little bit of extra damage. But you're helping to buff half of this guy's ultimate. It's costing you 20% of your team to do that, and she's doing nothing to counter the enemy team. So the amount that you've lost versus what you've gained in that little bit of extra damage, if she happens to be alive still when you get to the phase that you're ulting, which honestly, she probably will be. It's fine. Even beyond that, we're not sure if the male Water and Sun's ultimate is based on snapshot damage. And if it is, what that means is that it takes a snapshot of the damage when you start casting the ability, and as long as you keep casting the ability, other buffs don't matter. They don't change anything. It's possible that it works on snapshot damage. I haven't looked at it because I don't put these two together ever. Some of you can probably do that, and you can look at the damage numbers going by and tell me that they do get buffed, and then we'll all be happy, and she'll be a tiny bit better, but not usable, not worth it whatsoever. I would not use this character at all in the current meta. She's losing you much more than she gains, even though she does gain you a really fun time with ultimates. And the other one is the female Lume. Now, honestly, I would rather see a female Lume than a female Lionstone, especially if the main point is that you're buffing your male Water and Sun. If that's all you're going for and you get your strength sorted out so your male Water and Sun is catching the buff, this is better than female Lionstone. It's going to be more consistent than female Lionstone. On top of that, she does have an AoE stun that she throws out with her active skill, which also helps the male Water and Sun. However, you are getting this strength buff, which we've just described why it's not as good as it sounds. The damage is nice. But is that damage nice enough that you would rather pass over your male Acuna? Because what I just showed you with the female Thunderlord, I assume that you're probably going to want to at least try her out. So if you need two frontliners, and then you've got female Lume and your male Water and Sun, if you're throwing in your female Thunderlord to make sure that your energy is staying high, do you really want to drop one of your main DPS characters just to kind of buff this guy's damage? He does a lot of damage. It's true. But I don't think this is exceptionally worth it. But I do think it's the only situation that might be worth it for female Lume. I'm not going to kick you out of the nightclub because you got her on your team with the male Water and Sun. But other than that, I would not use her at all, ever. And I'm going to give a quick honorable mention here to F-Ho because everybody loves her. And I have literally seen teams that are female Lionstone, a random other frontliner, female Lume, female Ho, and male Water and Sun. My brother in Christ, if your male Water and Sun dies for any reason, you have lost the battle. You have just guaranteed that you lost the battle. I think there are better solutions than that are going to be more consistent and more fun. It doesn't mean that this character is not ever useful and that she can't ever be played or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying devoting so many resources just to male Water and Sun is not a good idea because you can get the buffs that you need from other places. You can get them from other places and have a good time. And if you really need something that's buffing your strength to some degree and you just can't get over it, do a male White Eyes. At least he's got a stun that happens, and it happens 5 times on his active skill. That's great energy regen. He also is going to cancel the people who can't stop using female Lionstone and remove their buffs considerably. And he's also going to give you your own little strength buff that you're going to enjoy using. So that's my 2 cents on the issue. And if you were going that method, then having a male Thunderlord who happens to have Fearsome on him, you might be doing a lot of damage. You might be gaining a lot of energy by going that route with it. It's up to you to decide. All right, I know that this was a long video and that it didn't have all the fancy editing that you're normally used to, but it's also 3:30 in the morning and I just wanted to be able to make this for you. I was going to include how to counter the male Water and Sun, and if you want to know more about that, you're going to have to tell me in the comments below that you need that video because I didn't have time for it in this one. If you do want to hear about that, hey, I'm going to do it for you. And if I've given you an interesting insight on how the game works and how you can do a little bit better inside of it, then by all means, toss me a subscribe and maybe even a like. For now, I want to thank you for watching. I have been RagePanda1, and I'll see you in the next one, which you could actually click on right now because there's like a bunch of videos that it's on the screen. And if you click the Rage Panda logo, it'll just automatically subscribe. That's what YouTube told me. I don't know. It's up to you. Bye-bye.